We are going to have a chance to talk for the next 45 to 50 minutes or so about outcomes and pathways for our alumni of Bowdoin College. A good possible subtitle for this panel may also be, so what do you actually do with a liberal arts education? It's a question that we talk about a lot in our information sessions, and I talk about a lot with prospective families. Obviously, we feel really strongly about the value of a liberal arts education, and we're here to have a chance to kind of explore further and answer your questions about the ways in which a liberal arts education really plays out in and after a Bowdoin education. Okay? I'm thrilled to be joined on stage today with 4 panelists. We have 2 colleagues, Cindy Stocks and Don Girding, as well as 2 members of the class of Bowdoin 2025. Ruth Olujobi and Gracie Shivi. Sorry, yeah. So we're glad to have him here. I do apologize. We had another student joining us, Brian Liu, who was recently awarded a Watson Fellowship. He was given the opportunity at the very last minute, actually today, to go down and meet with some other Watson Fellows who are doing similar research that he is doing. And I hope you all understand, encouraged him to follow that pathway rather than be here for this 45 minutes. So we apologize that Brian is not able to join us, but it's a really exciting opportunity for him. I'd like to ask each of our panelists, starting with Cindy and going down, just to give a very brief introduction.
Hi, everyone. That's really loud. Hi, everyone. My name is Cindy Stocks. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Director of Student Fellowships and Research here.
Hello, my name is Gracie Shivi, she, her, and I am a member of the class of 2025. I am a biology and philosophy double major, and I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruth Olujobi. I am also a member of class of 25. I am a neuroscience major and a German minor, and I am from Lagos, Nigeria.
Hi, I'm Don Girding. I'm the Director of Employer Engagement with the Career Exploration and Development Center. About a week and a half ago, I transitioned into that role from the business advisor position, so I can answer questions about that as well. She, her pronouns, and I'm from Plattsburgh, New York.
I didn't know you're from Plattsburgh. Great. So we're all working off of sort of the same baseline understanding. I'm going to first ask Cindy and then Don to start with a very general overview of the 2 offices that they represent. And these are the 2 offices that sort of most formally work with students in thinking about their postgraduate plans. But as you might remember from this morning, for those of you who were at the conversation with President Zaki, she also alluded to the fact that these conversations take place in lots of different areas of our campus community. So it's not just in CXD and with student fellowships and research, but also it may take place at professors' office hours. It may take place with a senior proctor talking to a first year or a sophomore about their internship experiences and what they plan to do. It may be that some member of our alumni community reaches back and hires a student for an internship or something. These are all networking opportunities and opportunities that sort of cross-pollinate along with our very formal resources to help our students really understand the wide variety of opportunities that are available for them to pursue. So I'd like to ask maybe if Cindy would be willing to start and give an overview of her office, and then Don will follow up following that.
Great. So first, thanks for having us here. Sarah, thanks to all of you for taking the time to hear from all of us. So I am, as I said, the Director of Student Fellowships and Research, and I want to take just a moment to talk about not just my office, but the center in which my office is situated. So there's a lot of titles here, but hopefully the point will come through. So my office, Student Fellowships and Research, is joined by 2 other offices, Off-Campus Study, as well as Health Professions Advising. And together our 3 offices make up the Center for Co-Curricular Opportunities, which I know is a mouthful. But the point is that we think of our center as a place where students can come, they can talk to an advisor, somebody who's never going to grade them, about how to make the most of their time at Bowdoin and how can they connect experiences that they are having in the classroom to things outside the classroom, whether that's through off-campus study, whether it's through research, which is where I focus. How does this connect to their long-term ambitions of entering into the health professions, which Ruth might talk a little bit about. So that is just a snapshot of our center, but I'll drill down and talk a little bit about my specific office of student fellowships and research. So our goal is to try and make it possible for students to have these added experiences while they are here at Bowdoin, particularly as they relate to research and to their academic program. And we do this in a couple of different ways. So first of all, we have funding that is available during the academic year to support research. One we call our monthly mini grant program. It's about, you can ask for up to $1,000 to, maybe you heard about this conference that you want to go to down in Boston, and it's related to this course that you're taking. You can ask for money, and we can provide that to you so you can have that experience. That's available throughout the year, kind of a low bar, pretty easy, as long as it's connected to your academic experience. We also have what's called the Fall Research Award. This is a larger sum of money. It's $2,500. It's really designed for students who are doing an independent study or an honors project. So, for example, if you were in a STEM field and you wanted to go to a different lab to learn a technique that no one here at Bowdoin knew, you could ask for money, go learn that technique, bring it back to the lab, and then use it for your honors project. I want to be clear when I'm talking about research that this is really across the discipline. This is disciplines. This is not just the STEM fields, but whether it's history or English, the performing arts, in all cases, these funds of money are available to you. So in addition to those funding sources that we have to support students during the academic year, we also have some sources that support research and some learning during the summer as well. So every summer, there's about 200 or so Bowdoin students that receive funding through the college to undertake research. They're usually here on campus. They don't have to be, but the research has to be mentored by a Bowdoin faculty member if it's kind of coming through our offices. Students receive funding. This summer it will be $600 a week, complimentary campus housing. We put the students up in an apartment that has a kitchen, and so it also is an opportunity to learn those vital cooking skills that serve you well for the rest of your life. Students do this for 8, 9, or 10 weeks, their choice, in conversation with their faculty mentor. These are extraordinary experiences where not only are you getting to do some really amazing research, you're seeing what it's like to do research, and you're developing these really close relationships with a faculty mentor. I'm sure Ruth maybe will talk about that, and Gracie as well can talk about that. And then lastly, in terms of summer funding, we're just kind of piloting, but so far so good, a summer language study program where we offer students who are receiving aid funding to engage in an intensive language study program. And I hate to say this again, but I think Ruth's going to talk about that as well. You can see kind of why we chose these two students. So those are all the ways in which we are hoping students can, yes, come to class, yes, engage with our amazing faculty, but there are all these other little ways that you can have these added on experiences to really make your Bowdoin experience shine. And we want to make that available to everybody because that's what this place is about. And the other reason that we try to do that is kind of the second prong of what we do in my office. So we use Bowdoin money to kind of make these experiences available. But then we also help students learn about and apply for national fellowships. Now, that's a term that some people are familiar with, but many people aren't, so I'm going to pause here and just do a quick little explanation. So a national fellowship means that the money and the decision-making power of who gets it and who doesn't is held outside of Bowdoin. And national fellowships can support a whole wide range of experiences, from graduate study to undertaking research outside the United States. It can be teaching English, it can be service. And there's even one, Brian, who was not able to be here, the Watson Fellowship, which supports $40,000 to travel around the world, exploring a topic or issue that you're passionately interested in. So our admission staff does a great job. We have amazing students here. And we like to believe that through giving them these little extra experiences, that by the time they go to apply for a national fellowship, they really have quite an extraordinary narrative to share. And they also have had practice telling their story. And we believe that that's why we've had a lot of success when it comes to national fellowships. Fulbright is a national fellowship that has a lot of name recognition. We are consistently a top producer. Not this year. We let somebody else be #1 this year. But prior to that, for the 4 years prior to that, more Bowdoin students received a Fulbright grant than from any other baccalaureate degree granting institution in the country, including many that are much bigger than us. So we're really, really proud of that. But I would also say we found out that 2 students, Brian being one of them, just received a Watson Fellowship. That's 2 out of the 37 awards that were made across the country. We learned that just recently, 3 students received Goldwater Awards, which is a recognition of STEM research excellence. And Maya Lee, who is a current senior, also got a Keesby Scholarship, working with our office and working with the committee that I collaborate with, that will support 2 years of graduate study at Cambridge University, doing a master's in English studies. So that's just a smattering, but I hope that you can see that that they all had taken advantage of the opportunities that we were able to support through our office, and then package that and had a really impressive story to tell, which landed them with these really amazing opportunities. So in a nutshell, that's what we do in student fellowships and research. Great. Yay.
So in addition to working here at Bowdoin, I'm also a parent. And I have a junior in high school right now, and we've been doing a lot of touring of schools, so I can imagine a little bit of what you might be feeling right now. Hopefully very proud. You should be. Excited, but also maybe a little anxious about, am I making the right choice? Is this investment going to pay off? And there are external factors and pressures that I'm sure play into that. In 4 years, how is technology going to impact the workforce, the jobs available, rising cost of living? Am I going to be able to afford to live after I make this a big investment? Actually, less of an investment at Bowdoin. So there's a lot to be thinking about, and I can understand, some of the worries that parents have coming into this decision. So I can't tell you, what the job market's exactly going to look like in 4 years, but what I can assure you is that your students, if they come here, will have the job search skills that they need to navigate whatever it's going to look like. And that's the mission of our office, is to not only help students land their first thing, but to train them and to give them the skills to be able to land the thing after that and the thing after that. And we've been very deliberate as an office about making sure that every student has those skills and delivering that at scale. So I'm sure you've heard about the sophomore boot camp program, where every student in their sophomore year comes back early from before the second semester. And we spend 3 days with them, running through how to write a resume, cover letter. They are paired with over 400 alumni participants. Each student is paired with two alumni to kind of facilitate that first networking call, which can be a little scary, get them over that hump so that they're prepared to make that next call. We also have a lot of opportunities to try out different career hypotheses about what students might be interested in. We also, in addition to the sophomore year, have way too many, to be honest, workshops throughout the year about those same sorts of skill building topics. And what that allows us to do by delivering those skills at scale is to allow our advising appointments, our one-on-one appointments, to be highly personalized, and really focus in on where the student's at and what they need in that moment, and to help them to discover for themselves where they want to go and what they want to try next. And career exploration is a series of experiments. You know, you try something and you like this, you don't like that, you try something new. And I think as parents, we've probably all done that ourselves throughout our careers. Our advisors are all practitioners, so they've all had careers of their own in the fields that they're advising in. So they bring a real-world perspective to the advising conversations. And that's all supported by a rabidly enthusiastic and generous network of 25,000 alumni. And I'm sure you've heard that at other places, but I'll just share a quick anecdote to kind of illustrate how it initially presented to me. So in my first week here at Bowdoin, my mentor said, you know, to learn a little bit more about this, you should reach out to a few alumni. So I got a list of about 100 alumni, and I thought, oh, I'll send, if I send a mass email to them inviting them for a conversation, maybe I'll have 10, write me back, and I'll have a few calls set up for the next few weeks. I would say within 24 hours, I had 80, 90 alum write me back. I'd love to hop on the call. So my first few weeks were pretty busy. And it's still, still true to this day. Even yesterday, I saw a cool new tech company that is growing really fast. I noticed we had an alum there, reached out to him, and within a couple hours, he wrote me back and connected me to the recruiter. So it is an unbelievably generous community, and that starts almost immediately. So as I mentioned, I was a business advisor, and we're doing a series with first years to try to prepare them for what that might look like over the next year or two as they enter that recruiting cycle. And the panelists that are helping them out are seniors, and because as soon as our students flip from being an applicant to having landed something, they immediately start to become advisor and networker and helper. So I'm sure there's a lot more to say about our office, but I'll stop there.
Great. Thank you so much, Dawn and Cindy. I'd now like to turn it over to Ruth and also to Gracie, and have a chance to learn a little bit more about the ways in which you have really utilized these resources that are available to you, both formally and informally. Gracie, it looks like you are raring to go. I will turn it right over to you and let you kind of help explain a little bit about the ways in which you have dug into these resources.
Yeah,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Hello. Like I said, I am a biology and philosophy double major, and when I came into Bowdoin, I knew I wanted to do biology. I knew I was really excited about research, but I had never actually done it. The philosophy major, double major, totally took me by surprise. That was sort of the liberal arts finding its way, into my academic interest, I guess. I took a philosophy class my first year, really loved it, and just kept taking them, and then declared that double major my sophomore year. And I am still interested in post-Bowdoin pursuing biology research, but the philosophy major, I think, has really complemented the way that I do science and the way that I can communicate it to others. So I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to take that first philosophy class and then find the room to have that double major. In terms of my experience with research and a lot of these resources on campus, I've actually stayed on campus all 3 summers since I've been at Bowdoin to do research. Separately from the fact that it's just an awesome program, to be able to be on campus and do research and get mentored by Bowdoin professors, being in Maine over the summer is so lovely, and there's lots of fun things to do. So that's also been a plus. But the way that I sort of got into that was knowing that I was interested in research coming in. I wanted to get experience doing it as soon as possible, mostly just to make sure I did like it, and if I didn't, I needed to figure something else out. And a professor that I had my first year fall, my ecology professor, I would go to her office hours a lot just to talk. I thought she was really cool. We would talk about research. We'd talk about papers we read for the class or other things. And sort of as we were transitioning from the end of that first semester to my second semester first year, she told me about this program that they have where you can apply to get funded to do research over the summer. I was really excited about it, so we worked together to come up with a research proposal, and we did the application together, and then I was funded that year. That was such an awesome experience, and I actually still work in that lab now. I'm doing honors with that same professor that I had my very first semester, which is really cool. My second summer after my sophomore year, I also got into that research project from a class that I took. I took a science communication class my sophomore fall, found out that I was really interested in that, and I had no idea. So I kept in touch with that professor as well, and we actually did like the first fully science communication fellowship that's ever been funded at Bowdoin, so that was really cool. And it was really fun to be mentored by that professor as well. And so I had sort of those 2 experiences going into my junior year. I knew that I wanted to keep doing research, eventually try to do grad school and research as a career, so I did an independent study my junior spring that then turned into an honors project that started over the summer and is now still going, and I'm almost done with it, which is very exciting. But I was funded again by the Fellowships and Research Office to do that work. I received a couple of different sort of like mini grant sort of research awards. I got one research award to buy gear to put on my car because I was doing sampling at a lake and needed a way to transport a canoe to the lake, so they gave me money so I could do that. That was awesome. So there's like lots of ways that money is used that aren't explicitly like sending something to a lab to get sequenced or buying equipment. They really make it accessible for everyone, which is great. And I've used a lot of that money as well to go to various conferences and things. I was actually funded to go to a conference this past summer that I wasn't even presenting at, but it was just a field that I was really interested in, and I wanted to meet a lot of the people there. And as I went through my process of applying to grad school in the fall, I talked to a lot of those people that I'd met at the conference, so it was the most helpful thing that I could have done. And so in terms of, I guess, what I'm doing now and what I'm going to be doing in the future, finishing up my honors project, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing in fall of 2025 yet. I am going to be attending the University of Miami in Florida, pursuing a PhD in integrative biology, and I got fully funded scholarship to do that, so I'm really excited about that. But I am waiting. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And last fall, I applied for, in addition to that, a research study Fulbright to pursue a research project for a year at the University of Bergen in Norway, and I'm still waiting to hear about that. I'm a semifinalist, and hopefully decisions will be out soon. So if I do get that, then I'll be deferring my grad school by a year, but I'll still be doing that. And so sort of in coming across those opportunities and working on my applications and networking, I worked really closely with Cindy in the fellowships office. She was so helpful in preparing the Fulbright application. And I think when you're at a school like Bowdoin, where so many people are applying for these national fellowships, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to apply for one, but then when a bunch of my friends were, it kind of became a social thing to just work on our applications together. So I did it, and it was fun to be able to help edit my friends and see what they were interested in as well. And a lot of my friends are semifinalists now, we're all really excited. And the office made it so easy. They set a lot of early internal deadlines to make sure that everybody's on top of it. They do a great job of getting feedback to us. So I was really happy with my application by the time I submitted it. And then on the end of the CXD office, I went and checked recently, I think I've met with Erin, the STEM advisor, like 16 times this year or something. She's just the most lovely person, and I love going in to ask her like one question and then talking about my research or whatever for like an hour. Everyone in that office is willing to do that sort of thing and really excited to hear about what students are passionate about. So it's been fun to feel like I can talk her ear off for a long time. And she's been so helpful in figuring out a lot of the small things. No one in my family has ever been to grad school, so I didn't really know how the application worked, and it's a lot of like networking and things are involved that I wasn't really prepared for, and so she helped me in like writing emails and preparing for having conversations with people, in addition to just like editing some of my personal statements and helping me with the decision process the last couple of weeks. So they've really been there every step of the way. The professors that I worked for have been amazing mentors. Even when I've been, talking about research that I'm going to do after I leave Bowdoin, they've still been really excited to hear about it. So I guess that's sort of my nutshell thing of sort of the research and fellowship involvement I've had here. The last thing I'll add is that I think Bowdoin as a whole makes these opportunities really accessible, in that I am involved in a lot of things outside of academics at Bowdoin, outside of my two majors, and I've been able to make it all work, and I have a lot of friends that are just as involved in doing honors projects. Brian's doing 2 honors projects, I just learned recently, and are still able to be involved in sports and clubs and other things. So I really like that not only does Bowdoin make that a priority, but it sort of makes its way into the culture as well, which has been really fun to experience the last 4 years. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was amazing. So, like I said, I'm a neuroscience major and a German minor, and I have utilized both offices a lot since my first year at Bowdoin. So my first year summer, I went abroad to Germany with the summer language fellowship, and that was so incredible because not a lot of first years go abroad your first year summer, and I'm international, so I would just come in from Nigeria to the US, and then I was going abroad again from being abroad. And that was such a fun experience because I was still, and I'm still very young, but I think that worldview was just so beautiful because I got to experience a different culture. And I had just started learning German at Bowdoin, so I did not know any word of German before coming to Bowdoin. So I was really pushing myself there because I learned that the best way to learn a language is when you're immersed in it and you're getting outside your comfort zone. And I really wanted to challenge myself and do that. So I remember getting to Germany and being like, wow, it's much different from what you just see on Duolingo, where they're like spelling out the words very little. Like when natives are speaking, you're thinking, is this the same language I'm learning? And so just having that experience and seeing, okay, when natives speak, they speak like this was just a really beautiful experience. And because I did that through this office, when I came back from my sophomore year, I began working with the office because I thought, this is an incredible office. I want to stay close to this office. And from there, I started working with CXD. I mean, I had been working with them, but my next summer, I did what we called the CXD grant, summer grant. So I got a summer grant to go home to Nigeria to work in healthcare. And so I worked at a hospital in Lagos with the generous funding from CXD. And that was so incredible because I'm very passionate about healthcare and healthcare for underserved communities and healthcare internationally. And so being able to get this funding from Bowdoin to go back home was very meaningful for me, because not only was I pursuing something I'm passionate about, I was pursuing that while at home, while seeing my parents, while being around people I love, while eating Nigerian food that I had missed so much. Yes, and so that was a very fun experience. And when I came back to Bowdoin, I continued, and then back at the Office of Co-Curricular Opportunities, I applied for mini grants to go to conferences. I went to a conference for with the Student National Medical Association 2 years in a row. I applied to continue doing research, global health research. I did with a fellowship I was doing. I got funded through the office to go to a conference for that. So I have really used both. And even one of the summers, I applied for a Coursera license. So CXC does that, where they pay for a Coursera license for you, where you can do a course on Coursera and get a certificate. They do one for Harvard Business School, and there are a ton of resources like that. So even while you're doing your regular summer thing, you can still be getting certified for something from Harvard Business School or other programs, which is really cool, because then you're doing like two things in one for one summer. And so I did something like that for healthcare, and I got a certificate for global health, which is really cool. And then my third summer, I did research and got funded by our office again, which is great. And interestingly, that was my first summer doing research, because I had thought I wouldn't like wet lab research, but that's the thing about like access. Like when you've not had the access to do research, you might just assume, but Bowdoin tries to make it accessible to everyone, so that whether you're doing it your first year or your third year, you can get the opportunity to do research. And I really loved doing research with my neuro professor. And so after doing research my junior year summer, I decided to do an independent study, and I got funding, a mini grant, to go to a conference to present, and I presented at Harvard Med, I presented at Vanderbilt School of Medicine, and it was just a ton of really great experiences. And I have learned so much with my research and grown and seen that now I really want to do research, and now post-grad, I'm applying to do research at hospitals. And back to the CXD office, the same fall of my senior year, I applied for what we call Projects for Peace, where you get funding, a $10,000 funding to do a project of your choice somewhere. And I applied through the CXD office. I worked with Meg, who is amazing, and I got selected for the funding. And this summer, I will be going home to do the project before I start my job after Bowdoin. And so I've worked very closely with both offices to get a lot of funding to pursue things I'm passionate about, especially in healthcare and research. And I think Bowdoin, sometimes I'm even surprised the pockets of funding everywhere at Bowdoin. I'm using like different types of fundings for different things, different semesters, and it's just really beautiful to see the plethora of resources that we have, small-scale resources as small as the mini grants. You can get like $500, $1,000 to something like the Projects for Peace that is $10,000, and what's in it, you get you can work with them to apply for this national fellowship and get $40,000. So the plethora of resources and the ways that we can access these opportunities is just really beautiful, and I know that these things have definitely prepared me to be able to advocate for myself post-Bowdoin, to say, I'm interested in this healthcare system in Kenya or in Uganda or in like Germany. And because I've worked on multiple applications at Bowdoin, I know how to write a compelling proposal, and I can send this to government officials. I can send it, like, I know how to craft my story in a way where I can communicate the need of this project and why I'm suited for this project and why I think people will benefit from this project. And I think Bowdoin really prepares us for that in a way that is just incredible, and in a way that would stay with us many years after we've graduated.
Wonderful. So thank you, Gracie and Ruth. I appreciate it. We'd now like to turn it over to all of you and see what questions you have. We have 2 microphones set up here, and they can be questions for anyone on the panel. We welcome anything, large or small question. Because we are live streamed, we've set up the 2 microphones, so we invite you to come forward if you would like to. While you are thinking of your questions, I'm going to do a quick lightning round for Ruth and Gracie, if that's okay, and ask you about a recent favorite conversation with a faculty or staff member that has stood out to you. And while I invite others to come up to the microphone. So,
I can go first.
yeah, really quick.
Yeah. In addition to some other things, I'm on the track team at Bowdoin, and my professor that I've done science communication research with ran track when he was in college, and I had a meeting with him a couple days ago where we were talking about the science behind certain events in track and the biomechanics of it and stuff, and it was really interesting.
I am taking an English independent study class, and I've been reading a lot of Nigerian literature and just getting to sit in my professor's office and speak about Nigerian authors and really feel connected to home is something that I've really enjoyed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, I have two questions. One, from the school perspective, how many students go on to postgraduate work versus going right into the workforce? And I'm sure it changes from year to year, but I'd be curious to hear a little bit about that. And then when students are coming in next year, we've heard about your amazing experiences, but how do the first-year students find out about these programs? Do you present? Do they need to come to your offices to kind of initiate interest? Just would like to hear that.
Dawn, would you be willing to grab that first piece?
Sure. I have a short answer and I have a longer answer. Short answer is I don't really know because it changes every year. I was looking at the data I would have to guess, and I don't want to guess, so let me get that information to you after. Is that okay? Based on your friends and what they're doing, would you say 20% go to grad school? Does that feel right?
Yeah, it's definitely more.
Something in
go
that
to jobs,
neighborhood. Yeah, but I'll get you the actual numbers. How do first years find out? From our office, we send weekly newsletters to students. So those go to, I think there's one that's to underclassmen and one that's to seniors every week. And then also each individual advisor, students we use a handshake, which most schools use to connect with our students about careers. And students can go in and select their areas of interest. And then each advisor every week will send out a newsletter to students who have selected those areas of interest so that they have a sector-specific list of events and opportunities that they should be paying attention to. And those are really curated. So most of the jobs and internships that we choose we have a recruiting relationship with, or we have an alumni who's willing to be an advocate. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm wondering if you would...
Do you mind? Sorry.
But wait, we do stuff too. Right. So we let students know about their research opportunities. There are several large events where we are partnering with all the entities across campus that offer summer opportunities. That happens in the fall. It happens again in the beginning of the second semester. There's notices in the digest on campus groups and all of that. And in terms of national fellowships, it is actually this time of year where we do a month-long campaign, which is called Think Big. You might even see posters around campus, where we're doing general info sessions, targeted info sessions, virtual info sessions, drop-in hours, you name it, it's there. And we also, every year, there's a poster in the union where we kind of do the publicity about all the students who have received a national fellowship in the last year. So in the coming month, we'll be putting together the poster for next year. And it is surprising how much traffic that area gets and how just that raises awareness. And I would say, people just, younger students know about older students so there's a lot of word of mouth that way, and also I would say faculty are absolutely key in that.
I was just going to say I agree. The reason mainly that I decided to apply to Fulbright was because one of my friends in the grade above me, who's on a Fulbright right now, just like really talked it up to me. And I think, like I had said, I first found out about research funding from talking to a professor. So I think they're very aware of it and they're publicizing it. The coordinators for academic departments are also spreading the word. So yeah, lots of different angles.
Great. Now to you, I apologize for the delay.
Would any of you be willing to speak to, on the humanities side of the house, how summer research opportunities or jobs, hey, I'm interested in going to law school one day, I need something that might be fitting in the summers along the way, kind of how those opportunities arise, how they get tailored, even by location, if students are, wanting a certain geography, how do those things sort of come to pass for students?
So it's something we're very aware of, and our office puts thought into. There are a lot of things we're doing, so I'm probably going to miss a whole lot. Stream of consciousness. We do have job collections that are tailored by interest, and we do have in our office a humanities job collection that has things at museums or libraries or grant writing, or because humanities can prepare you for a whole lot of different careers, right? Law. And so we do recognize and pay attention to those skills that you develop through the humanities, and then working with the student, try to clarify what is it they have in terms of an interest. It could be, the opportunities are pretty limitless, but once we identify that direction, help the student find their path. So we also work with the professors in the departments to communicate and to plan joint events. And then you asked about location.
Sure, if somebody said, after graduation, I want to end up in Washington, D.C., something that I could do with my humanities degree or pre-law, do things get tailored at that level, to trying to place kids?
Sure. Yeah, there's easy ways to search for opportunities, and then also we have the ability to search the alumni who are living by geography, and we rely heavily on our alumni for networking purposes, particularly by location. So I don't know how many of you use LinkedIn, but we can use LinkedIn, and there's an alumni database that can be leveraged to find people by location as well.
And may I ask, on a related note for on-campus recruiting, when kids are ready to graduate, does it matter what major you take on within this liberal arts college? Are on-campus recruiting employers open to kind of the full panoply of, it's a history major, it's an econ major, everyone's kind of viewed equally, as a potential candidate for these jobs?
Good question. I think for the most part, it doesn't matter at all. There are some paths that it does. If you want to be a software engineer, it'd be hard to be an English major and then pursue that path. Or if you want to go to grad school in biology, the same thing. But for the most part, I was the business advisor, and so that includes finance consulting, sales, marketing. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you're developing the skills that the employers are looking for. If they're looking for someone who's analytic, you need to be able to show that you've developed that, and humanities majors do that, both inside and outside the classroom. So it's just a matter of telling the story.
And I would just add quickly, so this summer, I would say, like within the amount of, we made about 96 awards as of yesterday morning for summer research. And through my office, which is just part of the whole landscape of offices that support summer opportunities. And I would say probably 40% of our awards went to social sciences, humanities, and the arts. So so when I was talking at the beginning and making that point, like we really focus on research across the disciplines. We walk the walk.
So add really quickly, as a philosophy major, I spent 1 year working as a student representative for the department. They hire student representatives every year, and their main goal is to put on events and bring in speakers to both expose Bowdoin students to philosophy and then also expose students already in philosophy classes or majors or minors to career paths. I think there's a lot of humanities majors where it may seem like you go into academia or like what else do you do? And if any of you saw, I'm sure the philosophy table at the academic fairs when I've been there, like their first thing that they show you is this list of like all the career paths that philosophy majors go into. And of my friends, some of them are going into law, some of them are going into government, consulting, some of them are going into academia, but I think in the departments themselves, there's also a lot of promotion for that.
Thank you. Yes, your question.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm actually an incoming transfer student, so I'll be coming in as a junior. And this question is specifically for Cindy, but I'd love to hear everyone's opinions, and especially Ruth, Gracie, if you guys have insight into this. But as an incoming junior, I was wondering if you had tailored advice about sort of how to hit the ground running to, I don't want to say make up for the fact, but to, taking into account that I haven't had the first 2 years at Bowdoin. I know when you're applying for these fellowships and research grants and things, sometimes you need a rec letter, sometimes you need, these things that might be a little easier to get if you did have those 2 years, freshman, sophomore. So I was just wondering if you had any advice. Did I say I'm an English major? Yeah, I hope that tailors that a little bit, yeah.
So what I would say, in terms of the summer fellowship process through the Office of Student Fellowships and Research, you are right. Faculty need to sign on and say, yes, I'm going to mentor this student. We're not just going to let you wander around in the woods, for over the summer. We want somebody to help be guiding you. So it's a really rich, worthwhile experience. And the very last question, so they have this form that they have to fill out, like how long have you known the student and tell us about the research project. The very last one is there anything else that you think that we should know, extenuating circumstances? For example, is this a transfer student? So the fact that you're thinking about how to hit the ground running makes me have great hope that you will indeed hit the ground running. It is something that we pay attention to. I would say in terms of national fellowships, there are sometimes limits in terms of the number of students that we can nominate, except if it's a transfer student, and then we get in like an extra slot. So there are certain supports in place, I believe, recognizing that you have less time here and how can you make the most of the time that you do have.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say, I'm neuro, but as someone who did research her junior year, I think a lot of people want to see like genuine interest in something, even if you don't have a track record. So if you can show, in this other thing I did, I was really interested, and I can bring that same energy and passion. A lot of people really want to support people who seem like they would make the best use of the resources they have. And I think just even from you asking this question, it shows that. So if you show that I'm really interested in this, I've never tried it before, but I guess I'll never know if I don't even try something. I think people want to take that chance and give you the opportunity. So yeah, I know that you would find a ton of great resources.
Thank you.
I would just add that when I've been applying to grad school and fellowships, I'm one of those people that's had kind of a weird extenuating circumstance. Not the same situation as you, but I took a gap semester my sophomore year because of like health reasons from track, whatever. But I was working in a biology lab at a different university, and the rec letter from that professor ended up being like my most important one. That research is like the most related to what I want to do moving forward. And I think Bowdoin professors and the offices were really supportive of that and helping me sort of craft my applications and my story around that and using that circumstance as like something that really made me stand out when I was applying places.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, I just have to add, I think Gracie's being a little humble here. I think you like found this lab, cold called them, convinced them how awesome you would be, and they were like, yeah.
That's great. All right. Yeah, sure.
First of all, Gracie and Ruth, fabulous work. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Two separate questions. One is, God knows what the journey for any child is going to be over the next 4 years, whether it ends up being something as involved on the research side or a generic corporate job. Just to focus on the latter point, what if a student ends the 4 years and wants to find a generic corporate job in a consumer company or a finance company? How much, in finding a job, how much are they reliant upon networking with alumni versus a roster of companies that actually come on campus? So does Eli Lilly come on campus and take 5 students every year, for example, right? Or are you entirely reliant upon alumni and that networking? So that's one question. The second question is more, and maybe this is way too early, fabulous opportunities on the research side, and you alluded to these national research opportunities. To the extent those national opportunities might not exist a year from now, right? How do you see, is Bowdoin already thinking ahead for that next Brian that's going to need $40,000 and how that's going to come? Thank you.
Don, would you be willing to field at least the first part? So the networking in corporate areas.
So on-campus partners versus reliance on alumni. It's a both and. I think we're trying to reduce the number of events that we do on campus because students only have so much bandwidth. And we try every year, but every year we probably have 80 to 100 employer events on campus. Those take a number of forms. Sometimes they come in person, sometimes they're Zoom, sometimes it's a Ask Me Anything session, one-on-one chats. We try to kind of tailor the format of the interaction to the type of job, the type of employer. So there are a lot of employers that we have relationships with. We're constantly reevaluating that list, though, based on student interest, based on who's hiring, based on where our alumni are, because a lot of times the alumni are bringing the employers to campus. So we definitely have that and have a lot of students take advantage of that, both for finding opportunities, but also for learning about different paths, because if you're from a family who has no investment bankers, how the heck would you know what they do? And so it serves an educational purpose as well. But we have a lot of students who aren't interested in the types of companies that hire on a cyclical every year basis. Those tend to be banks, consulting firms, large companies, and so we don't just want to cater to those needs. And our students have a lot of varied interests, and we don't have. It's rare for us to have more than 4 or 5 students go to the same employer a year because we follow where they want to go. And then your second question.
I'll take that one. Yeah, so this is a dynamic time in terms of federal funding, but I would say many of the national fellowships are privately funded. So Watson, the one where you get $40,000 to travel around the world, privately funded. Gates Cambridge, which provides graduate study for 2 to 3 years at Cambridge University, privately funded. The Keesby, the one that I mentioned that Maya Lee, our current senior, received to study in English studies at Cambridge, privately funded. Knight Hennessy, graduate study at Stanford University, privately funded. So And I mean, I could go on, but I think the point is, yes, it's a little less sure what Fulbright is going to look like, although last Friday I was on a webinar with Fulbright, and it is launched, and we can see the number of awards that they will be offering next year, which is giving us a lot of hope that Gracie and her cohort of semifinalists will hear good news very soon. So, you know, it may be that those programs are contracted, but I think that there still are a lot of other opportunities, and so we're just going to pour our energies into those opportunities that are still available, which there are plenty, and it takes more than that to get us down.
Excellent. So we are up against the end of our time. Before we give a wonderful round of applause to thank our panelists. Oh, is there one more? Oh, okay, yes, I'm sorry. Yep.
My question is if you don't live near here, like we live in Arizona, I was wondering if you work with students, if they come from a different state, they happen to want to go back there, to find resources in their community that maybe you don't know about, or to kind of figure out how to do that. How do you look for a job somewhere if you don't have a connection? Do you work with students on that? That was my question.
Yeah, it's a common challenge, I guess. So we do, as I mentioned, have employers that we work with that come to campus. They have offices in New England, but also other places, so we look there. We look to alumni. In some cities, there aren't as many, but we can start there. And then we start to teach students how to identify people in their network that may branch off from Bowdoin, may branch off from the NESCAC schools. We teach them how to identify people using LinkedIn that might have a common interest. If you're a swimmer, maybe you find other people who participate in swimming. So there's some tips and tricks to kind of identify connections with people at places that you might be interested in, and then of course teaching them how to find the places of interest and their location of interest is another job search skill. So back to kind of what I was talking about initially, we really want our students to learn how to fish because we're not going to be around forever, and we want them to know how to do this this search on their own as well. So I hope that answered your question.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right, now we really are up against, it's 3 o'clock. I encourage everyone to get up, get moving around. The Student Groups Showcase, which is over 70 of our clubs and organizations, is just getting started in the same location where the academic fair was earlier today. So if you're interested in going and seeing lots and lots of students, just like Gracie and Ruth, having a chance to really talk about the clubs and activities that they participate in, please join us over there. Thank you so much to Cindy, to Gracie, to Ruth, and to Dawn.